Misclick right there. First patch under the no borrowed power philosophy. I am beginning to understand why Blizz hasn't done this before. Welcome to another episode of WoW Forum Adventures. I'm your host, Fraventhor. And let's see what Victant from a Kulturen Death Knight has to say about the no borrowed power philosophy. As an endgame player, I just kind of had my mind blown when I realized that all I really have to look forward to in 10.1 is the new zone. Is the new raid. Zarolek Caverns is a glorified catch-up zone for those who don't have gear from Vault of the Incarnates already. And you can just jump into a barrier straight from Valdraken and continue to progress that way. You can just skip the entire zone. It may seem really silly, but I never really looked at it like this until now. I guess in previous expansions, we had to go to the new zone to do whatever new borrowed power mechanic that was there to stay competitive. But now, there's no real incentive to do that if you already have decent raid gear. Kind of having a weird breaking the illusion moment here. Now, the reason he's having this breaking the illusion moment is not even because of the zone, it's because there's nothing to do in endgame. Right? For better or for worse, as bad as the systems were and shit like that, at least you had something to look forward to in the endgame. A growth to the system, or basically a growth to your character throughout the expansion. Right now, your only growth is this endless gear grind that makes absolutely no sense. Right? You're just refarming the same gear from the same mythic, from different mythic pluses for a higher item level. And by the way, season 2, yeah, it has different dungeons, so you're gonna farm different gear technically. Okay. What happens in season 3? What happens in season 4? You are gonna regrind the gear that you have right now. Like, yeah, let's be real about that. Anyways, let's see what the replies have to say. I guess, okay. Which was awful. Doing content you don't like is a chore. True. But this can also be said about PvP and PvE. Doing PvP in order to be better at PvE is a chore. So, plenty of chores still exist in WoW. But he is not wrong on this. It was a chore. But let's be real. This has been true, by the way. I guess in previous expansion, we had to go to the new zone to do whatever new bar power mechanic. Yes, but in terms of gear, and I did miss that point, I just didn't talk about it. In terms of gear, if you were a mythic raider, for example, or did like mythic like 15s or above back then, you did not need almost pretty much any gear from the new zones. You were just there for the borrowed power stuff. So these new zones are actually more like for alts if you're a high-end player than anything to catch up to your main character. But this also is why playing high-end feels really stupid. Like, you just feel like you're an idiot for doing it because of all these catch-ups. It's like, how hard did you work to get your gear? Oh, this hard? Oh, okay. Well, look at me doing it in 3 days once the new patch is out. Like, it's not... It just feels like shit. Okay. Maybe back then I was fine to do chores, but now when we have expansions like BFA, I just stop logging in. I've played more now than I did when we had borrowed power. I did the quest, the opposite of most players. Look at that. I did the quest on 2 tunes in New Zone. Then I spent time doing other stuff like alt leveling, time walking, mythic quests, etc. I know what mythic quests are. Time walking is you always do it when alt leveling. Like, what? What? You could always do this. Then I spent doing other stuff like alt leveling. Dude, every time there's time walking is when you do alt leveling. It's the most XP per hour. I know what mythic quests are, so whatever. I'm assuming he means mythic dungeons, maybe? I don't know. But, like, you could have done this before. Like, what? You make no sense. It's refreshing to not have to do X thing for power just because people do it. Doesn't mean they enjoy it. And a lot of people get burnt out and quit having to do things they don't like. Okay, look, listen. I'm assuming he's referring to like Torghast. And yeah, Torghast was fucking dog shit and made you do Torghast like fucking whatever on your main. Both rounds of Torghast, if you already got to the max difficulty and there's no higher than that, both rounds will take you maybe like 30 minutes to an hour, right? Depends on your class, depends on your spec, whatever. 30 minutes to an hour. If you're a tank, you usually just fucking breeze through and you finish it pretty fucking fast. I think there's like a record. I think like there was a Demon Hunter, I think finished like his run in like 4 minutes or some shit like that. Like it's crazy. Okay, so to say that you didn't have time like for other stuff like alt leveling, time walking, and whatever mythic quests are is bullshit. Alt leveling and time walking, honestly, it's still the same dog shit that it was. Alt leveling is the same exact thing. Like there's, you know, if you're putting that much time in that, you're not doing Mythic Plus. Mythic Plus is really what you did in endgame for your power level, like for your gear and all that shit. And like if you need like AP grind, that's Mythic Plus. All that shit was from what's it called? From Mythic Plus. So you need to spend just as much time on Mythic Plus as you did back then. So in that regard, no, sir, you still have pretty much the exact same time per week to do alt leveling, time walking, minus maybe an hour at most for like your external powers. Sure. I still don't know what Mythic quests are, so don't even ask. Okay, it's refreshing to not have to do X thing for power. Again, like, yeah, but also it gave you something to do. Like, how many alts can you fucking level? Also, who enjoys leveling alts? This guy's weird. As an end game player, false. The catch-up is Mythic Plus. Majority of the gear will be from Mythic Plus and Mythic Plus vaults for catch-up. No, you are wrong. This is very, very wrong. The catch-up is not Mythic Plus. The grind is Mythic Plus. All of your gear is Mythic Plus. The catch-up is usually the new zones. Well, I mean, level 15, what would he know? All I'm saying is, there is catch-up gear, which is usually what new zones are for. They help you catch up to your main character, which then makes you feel like the main character is wasting his time getting all that gear because there's going to be so many catch-ups, right? If you try, like, you would, honestly, if you played 0.0, like 10.0, and you leveled multiple characters to max item level, like to the highest item level you could per week, right? You would feel like a fucking idiot on every patch that has catch-ups. Because you spent all of your time trying to get all of your characters, let's say, to 400, 410. Next mini patch-up comes along. Oh, it's so much easier. You can literally start at like 395 now. It's like, oh. Well, why the fuck did I work so hard to get to 400? I don't know. And then it's like, okay, you work hard to get to 410. Oh, well, 10.1 is coming out. And yeah, you can just start at like 410 just from like, you know, just like doing the basic quests. They're like super easy. Why? Why are these catch-ups a thing? That's so dumb. The only ones who should have the catch-up are people whose mains are at that are like higher item level, so the alts can have catch-ups. People who don't have a main at a certain item level should not have a catch-up to get to that item level. They should still go through the fucking chore. Not chore, the gameplay. Which is what endgame zones have been for a very, very long time. This isn't new at all. Yeah, it doesn't mean that this is good design. It's just shit. But this is the problem with vertical progression. Like, I can't even fault... The only reason I can fault WoW for this, and I can't fault something like Final Fantasy for this, is because the difference in how annoying it is to gear up in WoW compared to, let's say, Final Fantasy, which is another vertical progression MMO, is like, okay, let's do this. Final Fantasy 14, you log in, you do your normal raid, which is like a queue. You can knock out all the bosses you can only have really one character per, which really has its own issues. But let's say you just want to level up your, get your tank, your warrior tank up, right? Well, warrior is a thing. You want to get your warrior as high item level as fast as possible, right? You just queue into a raid. You can kill all the 4 bosses in less than an hour. You do your daily dungeon. You get like some catch-up gear from there. Or if it's allied raid patch, you do the allied raids. You are going to be at very close item level to Savage Gear players, right? Obviously, Savage Gear players are going to be above you by like 5 to 10 item levels, sure. And also you can buy a lot of the gear with from professions or craft it on your own, okay? And very, very close item levels. The problem is with WoW, you have world gear, which is essentially LFR item level. Then you have normal gear, which is 15 item levels above that. Then you have heroic gear, which is 15 item levels above that. Then you have mythic gear, which is 15. You end up an expansion with you end up a patch with like 40 to 60 item level gap between somebody who's doing super high-end shit and somebody who's just playing for fun and just doing like average, maybe mythic zeros. Why the fuck is the gap so high? Because then what happens, a new patch comes along and everyone who's playing at the lower part of the game gets boosted to approximately heroic level gear of the previous raid. Right, so let's just use numbers, right? Let's say mythic item levels are 500. These are not real numbers, okay? And like LFR, whatever, is at 400. Obviously, I'm making it like bigger than 50, 60 just to make a point, right? The next patch comes along, everyone who's at 400 pretty much instantly goes to 450. So why would you work? Why would you even try to get to 450? If you know you're going to get boosted, and the next patch will come along, you'll be 500. So unless you actually enjoy the content that you're doing, like if you really enjoy the Mythic Plus and the rating and stuff, then yeah, then it doesn't matter to you. But if all you care about is the gear, which is, I know I did, and I know many other people who only cared about gear and just want to be, I would just want to be best in slot. I just want to be best in slot. I want to be completely, like, do not need anything. Why would I play your fucking game if I know that you're going to invalidate me as soon as, literally before I even manage to do that? What if I want to play a red paladin with different stat attributes? Right? What if I want to go for, like, a super haste heavy red paladin, which is obviously not meta. There's like a certain stat breakdown that you need to go, but I want to play 40% haste paladin. If I do that, I cannot get gear for anything else. Like, I will not have time. I will not have time to min-max all the other shit that I need. I won't have the inventory space, nothing. It is practically impossible to try to play your own spec in different ways. Right? I'm not even talking about at high end. I'm talking about like even heroic raid level. This is not high end. It's like what should be average player. Like gearing in WoW takes way too much of your time. It sucks for alts. It sucks for the same character to have multiple specs. It sucks for the same character to have one spec with multiple builds. It sucks. It takes way too fucking long. Mythic Plus is too punishing. Fucking key gets depleted. Rating takes way too much of your fucking time. After LFR, which again, in my opinion, LFR should just be bots at this point, right? After normal, maybe. No more trash in raids. Just fucking boss rush. Just queue into this fucking boss and kill it. Save people the fucking time so they can actually enjoy what they enjoy and not just menial tasks. Never hear from the happy people. Okay. You never hear from the happy people. I hear from a lot of happy people now. I heard from none of them in Shadowlands. Mostly because I didn't know anyone that was happy. For those, I don't know, man. 25% of the player base still stayed, and they're happy with anything you throw their way. Be it garbage bags or dog doo-doo. For those I know, Legion Borrowed Power didn't become palatable until the end of Legion. No, That this is really not true. Legion borrowed power was palatable from the get-go. However, there were issues with it. The reason it was palatable is because it was brand new. There were not a lot of complaints about borrowed power in Legion. There were complaints, it wasn't perfect, obviously, but because it was new and because people were like, man, I can't wait to get my next glowy thingy on my weapon, it wasn't that big of a deal. It was brand new and it was exciting for people. Same with like the legendary power. Again, the experiment was fucked up. There were many fucking problems with it. But overall, it was received in a more positive light than any other borrowed power system, right? And that's why also, and by the way, Ian knows this because he said, oh, well, people loved AP. People loved the artifact power. That's why they built BFA with that in mind. Because by the time that people stopped liking it, which was towards the end, like middle to end of Legion, they couldn't do anything about in BFA. So in that regard, you're wrong. It was very palatable at the beginning. People kind of liked it. Right, it was something to work towards at end game. It was content, right? The problem is they didn't like it halfway through. BFA borrow power wasn't interesting or fun. This is a lie too. Essences were probably one of the best systems ever introduced to World of Warcraft, and Cursed, whatever it was called, Void Curse, whatever, and Void Corrupt, the corruption items were fucking amazing. Right, Azerite power was dog shit, but essences and corrupted gear was fucking amazing. You know what sucked about them? Acquisition sucked ass. You could not do whatever the fuck you want, which is still the problem with WoW today. Gear is not accessible. Shelllands was worse. So many quit over borrowed power in my circles that there were no happy people left. This is true. This is mostly because of the borrowed power inside of the raid. And in my opinion, if they fix acquisition, this will not be an issue. For those gems and the domination shards, whatever they were called, and domination sockets. If they fix the acquisition, made it more deterministic to be able to get that gear, and if it only was beneficial for the raid, which I believe it was only beneficial for the raid, because I think it says it only works in like the raid environment, in like the whatever the raid is called, or in the maw, something like that. So technically that was good, but acquisition sucked. Just fix acquisition. This has been the biggest problem with World of Warcraft, was acquisition of the systems. Everything else was fine. Account bound, make it more targetable. Anything that is like temporary, that is here to leave, make it easier to get because it's here for one patch. Many of them came back for this type of gameplay. Many, I guess, is not a whole lot because not many came back. Gambling without borrow power because they enjoy it. I'm not sure how other circles are for other people, but borrow power was the death of this game for many I knew. Again, not the borrowed power itself, the acquisition. But now there's no real incentive to do that. If you are someone who likes playing through storyline quests, there absolutely is. If the story was good, sure. Otherwise, perfect as it is now, and as it creates less tedium for people who just want to do endgame PvE or PvP. I mean, this is true for PvP for sure. PvP has been fixed in that regard. Not the gameplay, but the PvP gearing loop has. PvE, it's just, I mean, it's been Mythic Plus gearing since Legion. Like, let's be real, this has not been true. The amount of like AP grinding was from Mythic Plus. Like, let's be real. Well, not true for Azerite power at first, but like everything else, it was Mythic Plus. Like, yeah, like it hasn't. You haven't done anything. Okay, just jump into a burst straight from Valdrakken. I know, isn't it great? I guess in previous expansion we had to go to the new zone to do whatever new borrow power mechanic that was there to stay competitive, but now there's no real need to do that if you already fix that for you. I hate when people do that. It's like misinterpreting what he says, like purposefully, kind of like, you know, I know isn't great, but like you're playing the expansion or you're playing the patch. You're still playing the patch. That's the biggest issue here. I guess in previous expansion we had to go to the new zone to do whatever new borrow power. The heroic box this week gives you a piece you'll be able to upgrade to 437 next week if you have the crest to do so. What if it's a shitty piece? Here's another problem. Here's the biggest issue I have, like, with the game itself. Not the heroic box specifically, but like what the heroic box represents. What if you get a shitty gear you don't even need, and also it's currently not even an upgrade, but someone else gets their best in slot that even at like 437 is gonna be like the quality, the potential of it is like basically plus 20 item levels. That's how good it is for you. Meanwhile, some people get dicked. Not a good mechanic. Being forced to do that world content has been a major complaint for those who want to AFK in a major hub until it's time to do a dungeon. Please tell me that you can at least recognize the impossibility of pleasing everyone. I had to go to a new zone, do whatever, new bar power mechanic that was there to stay competitive, but now there's no real incentive to do that if you already have disarrayed gear. Being forced to do that world content has been a major complaint for those who want to AFK in a major hub until it's time to do a dungeon. I don't think you've ever been forced to do world content. Oh, yeah, the world quest shit. Yeah, okay, fair enough. It has been a complaint, yeah, but honestly, this is mostly for reputation, not really for gear. So, nah. I mean, let's be real. World of Warcraft is literally a fucking dungeon crawler at this point. An instance-based dungeon crawler with a fucking hub. I don't care about the possibility of pleasing everyone. Obviously, you can't. This is how it was until Legion. Legion was the first expansion where borrow power really took a hold of progression. In previous expansions, if you had gear from the previous raid, you just went to the next one. Yeah, if you had mythic gear from the previous raid, you go straight into the heroic raid for the next one, etc., etc. And I think that's fine. But you didn't have mythic plus gear. That can cause problem. You're willfully ignoring 90% of the patch then. That's not Blizzard's issue, that's yours. All I really have to look forward to in 10.1 is the new raid. What is he really ignoring? Rare farms? He is right, though. All I really have to look forward to in 10.1 is the new raid. He is right. Because the Mythic Plus, the Dragonflight Mythic Pluses are kind of shit. The old dungeons, you've done them 1,000 times. So that's not interesting. After like maybe 1 or 2 runs, okay, nostalgia is gone. Okay. Not as much fun. What else is he ignoring? Oh, no, well, no, wait, you can't do dragon riding in Azeroth yet, which is not, doesn't matter. So what? Oh, the rep grind? Bro. It's like, what does the rep grind give you? Oh, another mount? Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, all these rep grinds are arbitrary, fill the bar for no good reason. Like, people, like, again, people who are collecting fucking mounts, I find them to be like very fucking weird people. Like, straight up, oh, I have 600 mounts. Who gives a shit? Right? It's like watching as like, anyone notice that there hasn't been a mount off on Asmongold's channel, which is thank the Lord. After like the third one, I couldn't even bother like to watch 5 minutes of either. Right? Maybe like to see who won. Like to see the 1v1 matchup for a couple minutes at best. Like, yeah, same with like the transmog shit. It's like, yeah, there's nothing like, maybe it's just because the game is old. I don't know. Maybe just because like you just become desensitized to all of this shit. But it's like there are way too many mounts that mean nothing. They're like, the reps don't mean anything. Like, there's nothing really cool about the reps. There's nothing, like... they're not interesting overall. Like, there's nothing, like... It's just to fill the bar, a task, a whiteboard check mark that you're gonna put at the end of it, right? Either way, He is right. As an endgame player, yeah, he has nothing to look forward to. He's probably out gearing the world zone, so he has nothing to do there. Right. Yeah, he only has the raid to look forward to. Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I mean, he's not wrong. I mean, obviously, like, oh, there's more things to do, but that's not what he finds fun. He wants, basically, this guy wants more difficult content, probably in a smaller group than a raid, right? The raid is fine and all, but it's like maybe like what do you call it? A mage tower type of thing, right? Maybe like I don't know, a mage tower, like, sorry, how about a Torghast type of thing where you compete against other people to clear levels? You know, everyone starts at like on a different zone, and in some areas of the map you can see someone else's run from the side or some shit like that, right? Like weird things like this. Or you can have like a spectator where it like turns you into an orb and you can hover over other people's runs and shit like that. Then you can make like little tournaments of Torghast for players, right? With a spectator, right? There are many things you could do in this game for high-end players or like min-maxers or like speedrunners or something like that, but like they're not doing it. Right? Why is Torghast abandoned to begin with? Did you spend so much effort on it and you abandoned it? Just make it fucking good. Just make it more interesting. So, oh, well, we did the gauntlet and people like they say it was good, but no one was participating. How about give people the Torghast from the beta? The infinite Torghast, where you can go insane with your item levels, like with your powers. Right, and like literally break the game until it crashes. How about that? All right, why not do that one? Oh well, no, that would be too game breaking. Like, well, it's inside of Torghast. Who gives a shit? How about a PvP area with like Torghast powers, right? Where you can pick up a Torghast power for like 30 seconds, right? You just go pick up an orb, whatever. Right. So many things you can do for endgame players. But yeah, no, he's right. For endgame, and as an endgame player, you have absolutely nothing to look forward to in 10.1, aside from the disappointment that everyone's just going to catch up to what you have worked hard to achieve in the game, but everyone just gets a catch up and they're almost at the same item level as you because they get a patch and you don't. Essentially, you just get a new raid. Yeah. And that's why I don't know. I don't even know if this is a problem that I have with WoW or vertical progression as a whole. All I know is I never have these kind of thoughts when I play Final Fantasy XIV because the gap between where you start a patch and when you finish it is not that big. You can do literally like you can do the normal raid the same day it releases, and you can probably do within the first week half of the Savage raid as an average player, so long as you have like a static, because it's a bit easier like just to schedule the time. But honestly, even without a static, you can probably find practice groups to do the bosses and eventually kill them, right? It's because the gap to the top from the bottom is not that big, and then the challenge for the hardcore PvEers is the ultimate, which by the way doesn't have like, a lot of them are scaled down like in item level, so you don't even need like specific gear for it. There's like some gear that's just a bit better because of stats, but it scales down. And the newest ultimate, you just need a certain amount of item level, but let's be real, next expansion comes out, you won't need the item level anymore because you will be scaled down. Right, it just feels like Final Fantasy just does endgame better because it wastes less of your time and it's a bit easier to access the endgame. Meanwhile, in WoW, you're just majority of your time is dicking around just to be able to access it. Right, getting the proper guild, fucking 20 people to do a mythic raid. And by the way, of course you need 20 people. You know why? Because you have 13 to 14 slots out of that are mandatory. You have to have these specs in the fucking raid. You need to have your warrior for the shout. You need to have your demon hunter for the darkness. You need to have your monk, demon hunter and monk for the damage boost, right? You need your priest for the stamina buff. Okay? You need your 2 paladins for the auras, right? You need what else do you need? Usually you need Death Knight for what's it called? For B-res, yeah, but like pulling shit. Like there's some bosses that just have trash. You need a DK, maybe 2, to be able to pull the trash in. Right, so it's always safe to have a DK in your run. Mage or shaman for the lust. Right. So many things that you have to have in the raid that are just fucking up your composition. So you have to have 20 people in the raid because of all of these stupid ass buffs. I'm sure I missed a few, but like I remember I did the math at some point. There's like 12 to 13, now even 14 slots in 10.1.5. Because everyone's gonna need the new evoker in it. Everyone, you're gonna need that new evoker because it's gonna boost everyone's damage, and his damage is probably somewhere close to the average. So the damage is somewhere close to the average, and everyone who's above average is gonna get their damage boosted even further. You need that Drakthir, unless his damage is like so dogshit that no matter how much you're boosting everyone's damage, it doesn't matter. There's no way that you're not taking that Drakthir augmenter or whatever they're called, like the new spec. So now you're locking in more people for the raid. Anyways, that's my rant for today. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.